In this video, we'll see how to create a new material by duplicating an existing one and editing its properties. We'll show how to work with both the Autodesk AEC material library and custom material libraries too. And we'll see how to edit a material's render appearance settings. I have the exercise file Create Materials open. And we can see that we have some recessed shelves at the back of this office area, and we need to create some new materials to apply to these shelves. To access the material browser, we'll go to the Manage Ribbon tab, and from the Settings panel, we'll click the Materials button to open the material browser. Now we can see the material browser has three panels. So at the top left here, this panel shows us the materials that are available to us in the actual project. And on the right here, we have the material editor, which allows us to edit those materials. And we can see that we have some different tabs to edit different parts of the material, with the graphics tab allowing us to change the shading colors and apply surface patterns and cut patterns. The appearance tab shows us the render asset, and this is used when we enable the realistic shading mode or we render the model. And we also have the option for physical and thermal assets here, which can be used for when analyzing the model. The panel at the bottom left here is the material library panel. And if I expand out the home group just here, we can see we have the Autodesk AEC materials library. And actually there's a little lock next to this which indicates that we can't actually edit this library. With it selected, we can see all of the materials that are available to us from that library. If I expand out the AEC materials group here, we can see the different categories, and I'll scroll down slightly and click on the glass category here, and then we can see that that list of materials is filtered to show us the different types of glass available in the AEC materials. We can also open other material libraries that have been shared with us. And to do this, we'll click on the library menu at the bottom left here, and we'll choose Open Existing Library. You'll need to browse to where you have the exercise file saved. And then we can click on the Paint Colors Autodesk library file, and then click Open to add this into our material browser. And now we can see at the bottom of the library panel here, we have the Paint Colors library. And as it's selected, we can see all of the materials available in that library. And if we expand out the Paint Colors group here, we can see we've got category for blues, greens and reds, and as we click on each one, we can see the different materials in each category. We can also create a new library. So from the Material Library button in the bottom left corner here, we'll click on this and then select Create New Library. Now I'll save this one in the same folder as where the exercise files are, and I'll name this one Studio Materials. And I'll click Save, and we can see we have that new material library added into our material browser now. In order to use a material from the library, we must first add it to the project materials. So I'll choose the blues category from the Paint Colors library here, and then I'll select the Paint Azure Blue, and now we need to add it to the project material, so I'll click on the Add Material to Document button here. And we can see that's now copied up into the project materials, and its properties are here in the material editor for us to make changes to. So looking at the graphics tab here, we can see on the shading panel the blue color, although it's not currently editable. So I'll swap to the appearance tab, and we can see we have the appearance asset and it's called Azure Blue. Looking just to the left of the name, we can see the 0 here that indicates that this appearance asset isn't being shared by any other material. So we can edit this one without fear of changing other materials within the project. So to change the actual color of it, we'll come down to the wall paint panel here, and next to the color parameter we can see this color swatch. We'll click onto that, and that will open up the color palette here. And we'll just drag the luminance slider at the side here down to create a stronger blue. And then we'll click OK to apply that color onto our material. Now we'll change the name of this asset to match the new color. So on the information panel here, we'll click in the name parameter and we'll change this from Azure Blue to Bright Blue. And now I'll swap back to the graphics tab, and we can see on the shading panel here that the new shade of blue has been brought through, and that's because we have the Use Render Appearance option checked. So I'll go over to the list of project materials and we'll rename this material. So with it highlighted, we'll right click, and from the menu here we'll choose Rename, and we'll change this name to be Paint-Bright Blue. So now that we've got that new material in the project and we've made some changes to it, we can actually add it back into the library. So we'll right click over it, and from the menu here I'll choose Add To, and then from the sub menu I'll choose the paint colors and blues from the list of categories beneath this, and we can see that added to the paint colors library. We can also add it into our new Studio Materials library as well. So I'll right click over it once again, and from the Add To sub menu here I'll choose Studio Materials, and we can see straight away that that's now in the Studio Materials library. So now we want to create a new material for the wood shelving, and we'll do this by duplicating an existing material. So from the search bar at the top here I'll search for wood, and we can see now that the project materials have been filtered to show just wood materials, and actually the library panel has too. From the project materials we'll choose this wood panel material, and I'll make a duplicate of this. So I'll right click over it, and we can see that we've got two options for duplicating materials. One is to duplicate the material with shared assets, and this means that the two materials, the original and the duplicated one, would use the same appearance asset, meaning that if we edited it they would both update. And we then got the option to duplicate the material and its assets, which means it will be entirely independent, and this is the option we'll choose. And now we have that duplicated. We can see it's named Wood Panel with one in parenthesis here. We'll rename it to be Wood Shelving. And now having done that, we'll come and make some changes. So I'll swap to the Appearance tab here. We can see we've got the Wood Panel Appearance asset here, and that also has a 1 in parenthesis as that's been duplicated. And we can see from the left here the 0 indicates that no other materials are using this asset. So we can edit this without fear of changing other materials. We'll actually swap this asset for a new one. So we'll come across to the right hand side here, and at the top we have the Replace Asset option. So we'll click on this, and that will open up the asset browser. And at the top here we'll search for wood again. And now we can see that we've got physical assets and appearance assets. So we'll go to the bottom of the appearance assets here, and we'll choose the wood category. And now we can see the list of materials is showing all of the wood appearance assets. So we'll scroll down to the bottom until we see the walnut materials here. And we'll click on the walnut semi-gloss. And then at the right hand end of it here, we can see we've got a button here to replace the current asset. So we'll click on that, and we can see now in the background that that walnut semi-gloss has been applied to our material. So I'll close down the asset browser, and now we can see we have that walnut semi-gloss appearance asset applied to our wood shelving material. We don't need to make any changes to this, so I'll swap back to the graphics tab. We can see that the shaded colour has not updated, so I'll check the Use Render Appearance option here. We can see now that that colour has been pulled through from the appearance asset and is now a much darker brown. Now, having got this material created, we could add this into our new Studio Materials library. So I'll right click over it in the list of project materials here, and then from the Add To sub menu here we'll choose Studio Materials. Now I'll clear the wood search term from the top of the materials here, and then looking down at the material libraries we can see the Studio material now has the Paint Bright Blue material and also the wood shelving material. So now, having got those materials created, we'll click OK to close the material browser. And now we need to add the materials onto our shelving family. So I'll select the shelving family here, and then at the top of the properties palette we'll click Edit Type to access its type properties. And in the Materials and Finishes panel here we can see we have parameters for the shelf material and also the trim material. And they're currently both set to be the cherry material. Select the shelf material, we'll click on cherry, And then from the ellipsis button that appears, we'll click on this and open up the material browser. So in the search bar at the top, I'll search for shelving. And then we can see we have our wood shelving material, so we'll select this and click OK to assign that to the shelf material parameter. So now I'll click the cherry material next to the trim parameter and open the material browser from the button that appears. And this time I'll search for blue, and then we can see we have our paint bright blue material, so I'll select this and then click OK, and we can see that that's now assigned onto the trim material parameter. So I'll click OK to apply these changes to the shelving family. And we can see now that that material is updated, so we can see the blue shaded colour for the trim and also the wood colour for the shelving. However, the view is in a shaded visual style, so we're just seeing the shaded colours. So I'll go down to the view control bar and we'll click on the visual styles button here and change it to be realistic. And now we can see that that's updated. So although the blue still stays blue, we can see the wood texture with the grain running front to back on the shelves. And actually, we'd like the grain to run across the shelves here, so we'll need to edit the material to adjust the actual texture. So I'll go back to the Manage Ribbon tab, and from the Settings panel, we'll click the Materials to open up the material browser. From the search bar at the top, we'll search for shelving, and then we can see the wood shelving material, so we'll select this. Now in the material editor on the right, we'll change to the Appearance tab. And now from the Parameters panel just here, we can see that we've got the preview of the image, the wood walnut colour JPEG here. And if we click on the preview, it will open up the texture editor. And here we can see a bigger preview showing the size of the image. And looking further down, we have the scale panel and the sample size parameters. I'll change the sample size width parameter to 12 inches to reduce the scale down slightly. And just above this on the position panel, we can see that we also have the rotation parameter. So we'll change this to be 90 degrees. And we can see that's rotated in the preview now. So we'll click Done to finish editing the texture. And now we'll click OK to save the changes to the material. Now in the view here, we can see that that texture has rotated through 90 degrees. And it's now got the grain going the way we want it on our shelving families. And that finishes creating and applying the materials to the shelves in this model.